There are moments in attraction that people completely misunderstand because they are too busy listening to words instead of noticing behavior. A man can say many things, he can joke, he can smile, he can even act normal, but his comfort level tells a much deeper story than anything he speaks out loud. Because here is something most people never realize. When someone starts allowing you into their personal space, even in the smallest way, it is never random. It is not just physical, it is emotional. Think about it. People are naturally protective of their body, their space, their energy. They don't let everyone come close without some kind of internal check. But when that barrier starts to relax, when distance doesn't feel necessary anymore, something subtle is happening beneath the surface. And this is where confusion usually begins because many women start overthinking simple moments. Was that just friendly? Am I reading too much into it? Is it nothing? But human behavior is rarely nothing. Comfort grows quietly. It shows up in the way someone reacts when you are near, how they respond to your presence, and how relaxed they become without even trying. So instead of guessing feelings, start noticing patterns. Because attraction is not always loud or obvious, sometimes it is hidden in the way someone simply doesn't pull away. And once you understand that, you stop chasing confusion and start seeing clarity where others only see mixed signals. One of the clearest yet most misunderstood signs of interest is how a man reacts to simple, natural touch on his arm or shoulder. It may seem small on the surface, but in human behavior, these moments reveal a lot about comfort, trust, and emotional openness. When a man is not comfortable with someone, even a light, casual touch can make him shift his body, create distance, or feel slightly tense without even realizing it. That reaction is automatic. It is not planned. It is his personal boundary system working in the background. But when that same man stays relaxed, when he doesn't pull away, when he continues the conversation as if nothing unusual happened, that is where things become meaningful. Because comfort is never forced, it cannot be acted for long. A man only allows that level of ease when he doesn't feel the need to protect himself from you. And protection, in emotional terms, is closely connected to trust and attraction. Now, this doesn't mean every comfortable reaction equals deep romantic interest. That would be too simple. But it does show something important. He feels safe in your presence. And safety is the foundation where attraction slowly grows. You may notice small details in those moments. Maybe he smiles without thinking. Maybe he stays in the same position instead of adjusting away. Maybe he even continues talking naturally, as if your touch blended into the conversation instead of interrupting it. These are not loud signals. They are quiet ones. And quiet signals are often the most honest. Because when someone is trying to hide disinterest, their body often speaks first. But when someone is comfortable, their body also speaks, just in a different language. And here is the deeper layer most people miss. Comfort with touch often reflects comfort with emotional closeness too. If he is relaxed with small physical contact, it usually means he is not guarded around you emotionally either. He doesn't feel the need to build walls every time you come closer. In simple terms, it's not about the touch itself. It's about what the touch reveals. It shows whether you are being treated like a stranger, a friend, or someone he is slowly allowing into his personal world. And once you start noticing this difference, you stop guessing feelings and start reading behavior with much more clarity. There is a very subtle moment in attraction that most people overlook completely, and it happens when you naturally step into someone's personal space to fix something small, like their hair, collar, or clothing, and you watch their reaction without them even realizing they are being observed. Now, think about this carefully. In normal life, people are protective of their personal space. Even small gestures can feel intrusive if there is no comfort or connection. A person who is not emotionally relaxed around you will usually react instantly, even if politely. They might lean back slightly, adjust themselves quickly, or create a small gap between you without saying anything. But when a man doesn't do that, when he simply stays still, calm, and relaxed while you adjust something near him, that is not a random moment. That is a silent reflection of trust. Because in that second, he is not thinking about control or boundaries. He is simply allowing the moment to exist, and that kind of allowance does not come from strangers or surface level connections. It comes from comfort that has already started to grow beneath awareness. You may even notice something interesting in those moments. He might pause talking for a second, not in discomfort, but in stillness, almost like he is unconsciously aware of your presence in a calm way. Or he may continue the conversation normally, without any interruption in his behavior, which shows that your closeness feels natural to him. This is important to understand. Attraction is not always about bold moves or obvious signals. Sometimes it is about what does not happen. No stepping back, no awkward adjustment, no sudden tension, just ease. And ease is powerful because when someone allows you to enter their personal space like that, even briefly, it means their mind does not see you as a threat or an outsider. Instead, your presence is already categorized as familiar enough to be accepted without resistance. Another layer people miss is this. These moments are often instinctive, not planned. He is not consciously deciding, I will stay still. His body is simply not signaling discomfort, and that kind of natural reaction is much more honest than words. But again, this doesn't mean instant deep romance. It simply shows emotional relaxation. And emotional relaxation is one of the early building blocks of attraction. So instead of focusing only on what is said, notice these small pauses in reaction. Notice the absence of distance, because sometimes what a person does not do says more than what they actually do. And in this case, not moving away might just be one of the quietest signs that you are becoming someone he is comfortable letting closer into his world. One of the most unnoticed signs of attraction is how someone behaves when there is no real space between you anymore. Not touch, not words, just closeness. Sitting near each other, standing in the same small space. Being close enough that distance is no longer acting like a shield. Because here is the truth most people don't think about. Humans are naturally territorial about space. Even when we don't say it, our body is always measuring comfort zones. With strangers or people we don't fully trust, we tend to keep a clear distance without even realizing it. It is automatic, a quiet way of saying, this is my space. But when a man allows that distance to shrink without tension, something important is happening internally. You might notice it in simple moments. He doesn't shift away when you sit closer. He doesn't suddenly adjust his position to create space. He doesn't lean back or angle his body away. Instead, he stays present. Relaxed, as if your closeness doesn't feel like an intrusion, but something completely normal, and that normal feeling is where meaning starts. Because when someone is uncomfortable, their body reacts before their mind even has time to think. They create space. They reposition themselves. They subtly protect their personal zone. But when there is no discomfort, there is no need for protection. And that absence of protection is what we call comfort. Now, this is where many people misunderstand things. Close proximity alone does not automatically mean deep romantic interest. It can also come from familiarity or friendship. But what makes it meaningful is the lack of resistance. There is no tension in his body, no awkward energy, no silent urge to move away. Instead, there is ease. You may even notice small signs within that ease. He continues talking naturally without breaking flow. His tone doesn't change. His attention doesn't shift away. He doesn't become overly alert or self-conscious. It's as if your presence beside him is simply part of the environment he is already comfortable in. And that is the key point. Because attraction doesn't always show up as excitement. Sometimes it shows up as calmness. The kind of calmness where someone doesn't feel the need to manage distance anymore. Another deeper layer here is emotional safety. When a man allows close proximity without tension, it often means his nervous system doesn't register you as someone he needs to guard himself against. That is not a small thing. That is trust forming quietly in the background. And trust is the foundation of everything that grows later. So instead of looking for dramatic signals, pay attention to this quieter one, the way he behaves when space disappears between you. Because if there is no pullback, no resistance, and no visible discomfort, then you are no longer just someone passing by in his environment. You are someone his presence has started to accept naturally, without effort, without warning, and without defense. One of the most revealing moments in human behavior is not what someone says when they are comfortable, but how they react in the very first second when something unexpected happens. Especially something as simple and natural as gentle contact, because when a person is not emotionally relaxed, even small harmless touch can trigger a protective response. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it is just a quick shift of the body, a slight tension in the shoulders, a step back that happens without thinking. That is the body's way of saying, I need space. But when a man reacts differently, when there is no sudden tension, no defensive movement, no emotional withdrawal, that is where meaning starts to form quietly. Instead, you may notice something softer. He stays calm, his posture remains steady. His expression doesn't change into discomfort. Sometimes there is even a small smile or a natural continuation of the conversation as if nothing disrupted the moment at all. And this is important to understand. Calm reactions are not empty reactions. They are signals of internal safety because the body never lies in moments like these. The mind can pretend, the words can adjust, but the nervous system responds honestly. If there is discomfort, it shows. If there is ease, it shows too. Now, what makes this even more interesting is the absence of resistance. He doesn't try to correct the moment. He doesn't rush to reestablish distance. He doesn't act like something needs to be fixed. Instead, he allows the moment to pass naturally, and that natural flow is a quiet sign of acceptance. You might also notice small emotional cues that come with it. Maybe his eye contact stays steady instead of breaking. Maybe his attention remains on you instead of shifting away. Maybe his energy feels lighter rather than guarded. These details matter because they show that he is not in a defensive mindset around you. He is not filtering every interaction through caution. He is simply present. But it is also important not to misunderstand this. A soft reaction doesn't automatically mean strong romantic feelings. What it does show is comfort. And comfort is the environment where deeper connection can slowly grow over time. Think of it like this: defensiveness is a wall, softness is an open space. One blocks connection, the other allows it to develop naturally. And when someone consistently reacts to you with softness instead of resistance, it often means your presence is not creating stress in their internal world. That is a powerful shift, even if it seems small on the surface, because attraction is not always loud. Sometimes it is simply the absence of discomfort. So pay attention to those quiet reactions. The moments where there is no pulling away, no tension, no need to reset the space, because in those seconds, you are not just seeing behavior, you are seeing how safe your presence feels to him. And safety, more than anything else, is what slowly turns ordinary interaction into something deeper and more meaningful. One of the clearest shifts in human behavior happens when comfort becomes mutual, not one-sided. At first, you may notice small signs from your side of interaction, but the real turning point is when he starts doing the same thing back without it feeling forced or planned. Because attraction is not just about who allows closeness, it is also about who starts choosing closeness. When a man begins to naturally stay near you, even without a strong reason, it is rarely random. It might look simple on the surface. He stays a little longer after the conversation should have ended. He stands close instead of stepping away. He doesn't immediately create distance when there is a pause between you. Sometimes he even finds small reasons to continue the interaction, just to remain in your presence a bit more. And these moments matter because they show intention without words. Now, here is something important to understand. People don't usually stay in spaces where they feel nothing. Time and attention are both selective. If someone has no interest or comfort, they naturally withdraw. They don't extend moments. They don't delay leaving. They don't create unnecessary closeness. But when someone feels at ease around you, that behavior slowly changes. Not in a loud or obvious way, but in a soft and natural rhythm. You may notice he starts small things just to keep the interaction going. Maybe he asks another question even after the conversation is technically over. Maybe he lingers a bit while others have already moved on. Maybe he stays physically nearby without needing a clear reason to do so. And the most interesting part is, it doesn't feel like effort from him. It feels normal. That is what makes it meaningful, because when something is forced, you can feel it. But when something is natural, it blends into behavior without resistance. That is when you know comfort is building in a real way. Another layer to this is emotional grounding. Staying close often means he feels grounded in your presence. There is a sense of ease that makes him not rush away. He is not trying to escape the moment. Instead, he is extending it quietly. And this is where many people start overthinking. They think every moment must have a big meaning. But in reality, connection often grows in these small, repeated behaviors rather than one dramatic signal. Still, it is important to stay balanced in understanding this. Staying close does not automatically guarantee deep feelings. What it shows is preference. It shows that your presence is comfortable enough to choose, even when there is no pressure to stay. And that choice is where things become interesting. Because when someone doesn't need to stay, but still does, it usually means your presence has started to feel better than distance. Not in an intense or overwhelming way, but in a quiet, natural one. And that quiet preference is often where real connection begins to grow, long before anything is ever said out loud. At the end of the day, attraction is not something you need to chase or decode like a puzzle. It's something you observe slowly, in real behavior, in real moments, without forcing meaning where it doesn't exist. Because when someone is genuinely comfortable with you, it doesn't come from big dramatic signs. It shows up in the quiet things, the way they stay a little longer, the way they don't pull away, the way they relax around you without even thinking about it. But here is the part most people forget. None of these signs should ever be used to assume everything. They are just indicators of comfort, nothing more, nothing less. Real connection is always built on respect, communication, and emotional balance, not just body language or small gestures. So instead of overthinking every interaction, focus on patterns, not one moment, but repeated behavior, not confusion, but consistency. Because clarity always comes with time when you stop rushing to define everything too quickly. And if you take one thing from this, let it be this simple idea. The right connection will never feel like constant guessing. It will feel natural, steady, and emotionally safe on both sides. So pay attention, but don't obsess. Observe, but don't assume too fast. And most importantly, value yourself enough to only invest where energy feels mutual, not one-sided. If this helped you understand things in a clearer way, stay connected for more deep relationship insights like this. And tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed these quiet signs before but didn't know what they meant at the time?